Hi, welcome everybody. Welcome back to my channel, Joel Isaiah. And today we'll be looking at the final day of the Stockholm Major, and I will guide you through on how you can set your fantasy roster for this final day. If you were wondering what I was doing just now, well, let me tell you what I was doing. I was mimicking BZM's Invoker, Taiga's Enigma, and Sep's Wind Ranger. Why did I do that? Well, to just tell you the truth, I'm going to have my personal bias for the final day, and in my mind, I believe that this major could be an amazing miracle run major where OG will actually win the major, and they would possibly reach the grand finals, be in a close match against Tundra, and yet possibly take it in the end. Well, this is just my own personal bias. Of course, OG would first have to beat TSM, and that itself will be a tough one. While I have my personal bias, what I will help you in this video to do is to help you make your own decision for the roster that you will set. I will first take you through the thought process and the stats for this final day roster, and at the end, I will present you with 5 options that you can choose from to decide on which roster you want. The options are based on which team you think will win, which team you think will win the lower bracket final, or whether you just want to play safe. You can choose the option based on what you think will happen on the final day. For me, I will go with believing that OG will at least reach the grand finals, but you can decide after watching this if you want to set a different roster. Now, let's start off. At this time of this video, OG and Gaming Gladiator has not completed their series, but I'm making this video ahead of time. Otherwise, there won't be enough time for many of us to decide on our roster. Between OG and Gaming Gladiators, I believe that OG probably wins against Gaming Gladiators, and this is because OG generally has a higher motivation and positive mental attitude even in the game itself. OG also has an insane skilling and growth among their young players, and not only that, but OG has No-Tail, Sep, Misha and Chu, 4 brilliant minds to help to analyze the draft and strategies of Gaming Gladiators to possibly help to pull a win for OG. Lastly, Gaming Gladiators strategies are becoming more and more figured. They have predictable and consistent pick like their Bane or their Ember, and some teams like Liquid has said that they are figured out. We'll see if that's really the case. But with this assumption, I'm going to say that for the final day, it won't be Gaming Gladiators, but the 3 teams that will be on the final day will be OG, TSM, and Tundra. Now the next question to answer is whether OG or TSM will reach the grand finals. Now both of these teams are very strong, perhaps even evenly matched. So how do we decide whether OG or TSM will win? Here is my thoughts. I think that OG's possible edge in the series is that OG has a slightly higher positive mental attitude even in the game itself, regardless of whether they are winning or losing. For example, you can see in OG's third game against Fnatic, even though they were losing hard, Yuguragi said that he never once doubted but always believed that they can win. Now, the second reason is that I think that after OG lost against TSM, they have sufficient time to analyze and learn from their losses to TSM to understand what they did wrong and what did TSM do right, so that this advantage of learning from their own loss will matter. The third reason is that I think that OG as a team seems to make less mistakes than TSM. There were times that I see somebody from TSM out of position, like maybe Saberlight or Dubu, but I think from OG's end, you don't see their players being out of position as often. The last reason is that I think that ATF is a player who is special. When people are tilted, they usually don't play so well. But for Ama, He might actually play better when he is tilted, but this is just a side point. The main point is that I think OG has that perseverance and mental fortitude. They can learn from their losses from TSM, and they probably may make less mistakes. But I'm not saying that's all. Of course, TSM might actually be the one with the edge. So what is TSM's edge? TSM is a team that stuck together since last year, and they have been continuously growing, even having a good performance at TI10, and right now they are even doing better. Next, TSM has an amazing support duo. Even though all their supports are amazing, TSM's two supports are really amazing in their warding, their vision, their healing, and everything. So that could take them to win games. The third one is that TSM has a very aggressive playstyle almost every game. Whether they are winning or losing, they will go in, they will take fights, even 3v5, and may even win in a 3v5 situation. Of course, that may result in mistakes and losses, but TSM has often pulled off victories out of aggressive plays. The last reason is that on OG's end, Sep is not as familiar on pause 5, let's say, compared to Dubu. And so this weakness on OG's end could end up allowing TSM to be the one that win. All in all, I think that TSM's main edge is that they have a slightly better execution. They can jump in better at the right timing, or heal at the right timing, or Fian's grip at the right timing, a bit better than OG. But OG's edge, I would say, is that OG may be slightly better at drafting. They have 4 people backing them up in terms of draft and strategies: No-Tail, Sep, Misha, and Chu. They can learn and analyze from their loss, and that OG has a positive mental attitude even in a very impossible game. So putting these together, I think that what may likely happen tomorrow is that OG will win game 1 due to a superior initial draft and strategy. But TSM will win game 2 by adjusting from game 1 and then executing very well. In game 3, even though both teams will be even, I would give OG the final game because they have done it time and time again, like in TI8. So my personal opinion is that OG will win, but if we move on to the final section, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to offer you scenarios where you can either think that OG will win or TSM will win and adjust your roster accordingly. So because the final day is special, one team will play both best of 3 and best of 5, while Tundra will play a best of 5. We need to allocate a score multiplier compared to the average fantasy point they'll get, because either way, when there's a best of 5, teams will score higher than usual. So I'll give Tundra a multiplier of 1.2 as they are playing a best of 5, and if I'm not wrong, the best 3 games out of 5 games will be counted. And either a TSM or OG could win, so I'll give a multiplier to OG and TSM of 1.3. So I won't elaborate on the rest. After knowing this information, let's quickly look at the players that are playing and take a look at their average scores expected for tomorrow. So if you look at everything here and you just look at the final column, the total and the multiplier, you'll see that Uragi and Timado will be the highest scoring on the assumption that they do actually make it to the grand final. Otherwise, next highest will be Skita with 18, followed by Ama, 33, and Saberlight. Remember that the multiplier here for OG or TSM is under the assumption that they reach the grand final. If they don't reach the grand final, the multiplier is not helpful. Now for the mid lane, you can see that BZM, Brow, and 9. BZM will score highest if he reaches the grand final. Brow will score next highest if he reaches grand final, and 9 will score a bit lower than them. For support, you will see that Dubu scores the highest, and then the other support scores around the same. Now, I don't want to play too much number games because it can get boring. I want to conclude right now so that you can set your roster. So for the conclusion, there are 5 different draft options for you. Choose the option that you want based on who you think will win and your preference. Option 1. Spam this flower to give OG power. This option means that you think that OG will beat TSM and will get to the grand final and may possibly win the grand final. In that case, you pick Uragi, then you pick either OG's offlane Ama or you pick Skeeter. Then you pick BZM, you pick Taiga, and lastly you pick Sapsa because Misha is not around. Now, the next option is that you think OG will reach grand finals, but you think that Tundra will crush the grand final, or even if they don't crush it, they will win it. In that case, Skeeter is the first choice, Uragi is the second choice. Then for the mid, you have to decide either between 9 or BZM. It's a harder call, but if 9 is the one that wins, even though 9 has a much lower average, he may still score higher than BZM because Tundra is the one that wins. So you have to make the call whether to choose between 9 or BZM. Then you pick Saksa, and the last support you either choose Snaking or Taiga. Yeah, so that is in the case that you think that OG will go grand finals, but you think Tundra will win. The third scenario is spam this tomato to feed the Timado. This means that you think that Tundra will make it to grand finals and they may even win. In that case, you pick almost all 5 of TSM player. The only player that you don't pick from TSM is for your second core slot, instead of Saberlight, you pick Skeeter. This is because Saberlight has an average, very low average fantasy point. So even if TSM wins the grand final, Saberlight may not score that high. It may still be better to pick the carry from Tundra, which is Skeeter. Fourth option, you think TSM will reach the grand finals, but you think that Tundra will win. In this case, make slight adjustments. Pick Timado, Skeeter, once again either 9 or Brown, then Dubu, and then either Saksa or Moonmender. So for your mid and your second support, you might want to choose Tundra player instead because you think that Tundra will be the one that win the grand final. Now, after hearing all of this, if you have absolutely no idea what to pick, because you really don't know who will win, you don't know if TSM or OG will reach the grand final, and you don't know whether Tundra will win, even though that's likely, then play safe. The no idea play safe option is for you. Pick Skeeter, reliable carry. He will play in the grand final. Next, pick 33, Uragi, or Timado. 33 is a safe choice because 33 is an offlaner that scores quite high points and he will be playing the grand finals. So if not, then you can pick Uragi or Timado, but that will be a slight gamble because you do not know which team will make it to the grand final. Third, pick 9. Because he will play in the grand finals. Pick Saksa because he will play in the grand finals. Lastly, pick Snaking because he will play in the grand finals, but Snaking is not one of the highest scoring support. So if you do want to take a slight risk, you can still pick Dubu if you think TSM will make it to the grand finals, or you can pick Taiga. On a side note, even if Dubu doesn't make it to the grand finals, it is kind of okay to pick Dubu because Dubu is the top scoring support and he always plants a lot of wards. So even if TSM loses to OG, Dubu may still score a high point. So I would say that if you want to play safe, for your second support, both Snaking and Dubu are good choices. Ultimately, it's your choice which scenario you think will most likely happen, or if you just want to play safe because you have no idea. Choose between option 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5. For me, I'll choose option 1 because I believe that OG really has the potential and the chance to beat both TSM and Tundra. Now to wrap up this video, let me just leave you with a few final tips that can help you to wrap up. That's all the cards you have from the teams that are out. Second, Know that for supports, if supports that always ward and stat will perform well whether their team wins or lose. And that is also the reason why I said Dubu is a safe choice no matter what. He may not be the best choice, but Dubu will be the safe choice no matter what. Third, if you already have a very high fantasy score throughout this DPC, you've been playing the fantasy non-stop and you've already accumulated the high score, you might want to consider to just play safe and get a decent score on the last day. So in that case, you would choose option 5. Fourth, on this final day, card bonuses matter less because it is more about which team you think will play 2 series and which team you think will win the grand final. Choosing players from the team that will play 2 series and will win the grand final will be more important than card bonuses. That being said, card bonuses still matter to some extent if you are going with option 2, option 4, and option 5. That's because in option 2, 4, and 5, there are players that I mentioned that you can choose from for some of the slots. For these player slots that you need to decide which one you want to choose, looking at your card bonuses of these players can help you to make your final decision. Last of all, for a best of 5, it's not confirmed. No, the rules didn't state it clearly. But for a best of 5, the best 3 games may be counted instead of just 2 games. That would mean that the best of 5 will give you a lot of fantasy points, much more than the best of 3. In that case, Tundra cards will always be relevant. And that is why, in all 5 of my options, at least for the core role, you should really consider to put Skitter in. Now, the very last thing is that the safest way to play the safe route is that you pick all 5 Tantra players, especially if you have good card bonuses for 33, Saksa, and Snake King. Why do I say that? That's because even if the supports are not the highest scoring support, at the very least, if you pick all 5 Tundra players, you are guaranteed to score fantasy points from a best of 5, which will give you more points. So even if OG or TSMs are the ones who win the best of 5, at the very least you know that you will not lose out on fantasy points because you pick, say, OG player but the OG didn't play in the grand final, or the TSM player but they didn't play in the grand final. If you pick all 5 Tundra players, you know that you will be getting some points. That is the safest route, and this is my final tips and advice. I hope that you enjoyed my fantasy guide so far. I will not be making a next video so soon, but I really love DotA. I really love analyzing, predicting, analyzing the meta, and I hope to make some future content. I hope if you enjoying this content and guide so far, let me know. Leave it a comment and perhaps even tell me what you hope to see more often. Thank you so much for watching this video and your support, and all the best for your final day roster. Remember, it's all about choosing among different options here, and you choose the option you want based on who you think will win in the end. With that, thank you, see you, and have a good night, and we'll watch the grand finals tomorrow.